Hello BookTube! Welcome to Lizzie Faye Loves Books. I'm Elizabeth and this is going to be my week 5 wrap-up for March Mystery Madness. Now I will do a separate quick video about kind of summarizing my whole month for March Mystery Madness and giving you the totals for everything I read, but I'll do that separately. Right now I'm just going to tell you about the books that I read during the last 6 days of March. I read 7 books and 2 of those were audio and 3 of those were kids books. 2 of those 3 were really short. So don't get too excited about 7 books in 6 days because a couple of them were pretty small. So let me show you what I read. I showed this in my original TBR. This is something that I read to my daughter Emily. She's 14, but she has autism and reads on a very low reading level. And I kind of wanted to get her in on this whole March Mystery Madness thing. And since I had this little book I had picked up at a recent book haul, I thought we would read this together. And this is called The Mystery of the Pirate Ghost by Geoffrey and it was very cute. I really did enjoy it. It was a cute little mystery with kind of a moral at the end, with a little villain who I think is reformed by the time we get to the end. So it kind of has a bit of a lesson to learn in this book, and I thought it was very cute. Now, I say this was short. It actually had about 48 pages. A lot of it was illustrations, but it had a little more text than your average picture book. That's why I'm going ahead and counting it in my total. This book also had just a little over 50 pages. This is more of a chapter book, Cam Jansen and the Mystery of the Gold Coins. I believe this is book 5 in the Cam Jansen series. I had never read any Cam Jansen, and I think my daughter read one for a kids book club back when she was in elementary school, and I didn't read it at the time. This one was in one of my recent book hauls, and I thought before I took it to the Little Free Library, I would just go ahead and read it since it fit with the mystery theme for this month, and I thought it was pretty good. It's a kind of mystery, you know, that makes you think. Cam Jansen is a girl with a photographic memory. Her name, I believe, is actually Jennifer, but they call her Cam, which is short for camera, because when she looks at something and says click, then she commits it to memory. And I thought that was a really cute premise for a detective story, because I think one of the lessons you can learn from this is that in order to be a good detective, you must be observant. Now, I don't necessarily think you need a photographic memory to be a good detective, but I think the point this is trying to get across is that if you look and pay attention to your surroundings, you can figure stuff out, and I think that's very true. We see that in the TV series Psych. Sean is not really a psychic, he's just very observant and pays attention to what he's seeing. That's kind of the gist of this book, is to pay attention and think, and you can figure out mysteries. So I thought this was really good. I would definitely recommend this for young readers, emerging readers. It's a good early chapter book for elementary school age children, and I thought it was great. This would be more like a middle grade book, maybe an older elementary, younger middle grade. And this is number 11 in the Carole Marsh mystery series. I picked this up at a book sale because it is the mystery at Disney World, and I live here in Central Florida and know a lot about Disney World and have been there a lot of times. So I thought this would be interesting, and there are a few photographs. It's a little outdated as far as Disney, because Disney goes through changes all the time. So some of the things talked about in this book have changed, but it's still very entertaining. I did think it was a bit far-fetched, though. And I didn't look at any of the reviews of this before I read it, and I was kind of curious to see if anybody else picked up on the things that I did, and some did. Well, initially, I kind of got a red flag because the kids are like 13 and under. I think the youngest is 7. And the adults split up from the kids and said, okay, you kids go and do your thing, and we'll go and do our thing. Well, in this day and age at Disney, I don't know that that's a good idea. I mean, if they were all 13, that might be different. But I'm not sure I would send a 7-year-old with a 13-year-old and just say, okay, you have the whole day in front of you, go for it. Now, if they were going to go on a ride and you're going to wait outside, that's fine. But to just say, okay, see you later, have a great day, I don't know that that's such a good idea. Okay, now, when the kids are off to themselves and they're on a ride, the youngest one disappears. So here's what's funny. Okay, they had walkie-talkies in order to communicate with the adults, but instead of getting on the walkie-talkie and saying, hey, listen, one of us is missing, he's disappeared, they go eat lunch and decide to talk over lunch what they're going to do to find him. Okay, that's just a little bizarre. I think you would be a little more frantic than that. Even a 13-year-old knows that if someone comes up missing, you need to find them immediately. Not to mention the fact that the ride they were on was the Pirates of the Caribbean, which is in the water. So he disappeared off this ride. Well, the first thing I thought of was he's in the water, and I don't think it's very deep, but still, he's in the water and there's all this electronic stuff. So that's pretty dangerous. And that kind of part, that was just sort of glazed over, and that alone was not really realistic. So now, all of that aside, for what it is, it was really cute. I thought it was fun, and I think kids would get a kick out of this book. But as an adult, I had a hard time getting past those points. And I haven't read any of the other books. I did get the first book in this series from the library, and I'm actually reading it right now. I didn't think I was going to read it, but I decided after reading this one, I decided to go ahead and read that one and just see if it was any better or worse or same, and I'm glad I read it. But again, it was just a little far-fetched, and I thought the situations were a little more dangerous than they made it out to be in the book. All right, so probably my favorite book for this week is Aunt Dimity's Death. This is by Nancy Atherton, and this is the first in the Aunt Dimity series. I went into this not having any idea if I was going to like this or not, and I loved it. I thought it was adorable. So cute. Now, it is a paranormal mystery, but the paranormal part doesn't really come into play for quite a while. I'd say probably most of the first half of the book, I was really starting to wonder, is this going to be paranormal? Because I needed to read a paranormal mystery for one of the March Mystery Madness challenges, and I started wondering if this was going to meet the challenge or not, but it did. Aunt Dimity has died at the beginning of this book, and then she manifests herself by writing in a journal to our main character, Laurie Shepherd, and so Laurie can ask her questions, and Aunt Dimity answers by making writing appear in a journal. So I hope that's not too much of a spoiler if you've never read these. I just thought this book was adorable, and I am definitely going to read some more Aunt Dimity. In fact, I have some on my TBR for April, and I just thought it was really, really cute. Aunt Dimity as a ghost is very, very friendly, almost kind of like Casper. She's not scary and just really sweet and helps people, and it's really, really cute. I also, in addition to listening to an Agatha Christie early in the month, I decided to go ahead and read an Agatha Christie. This one is Evil Under the Sun, and this is a Hercule Poirot mystery. I picked this one out in particular because in the Around the Year in 52 Books challenge, one of the challenges is to read a book that is mentioned in another book. So when I was listening to The Martian in February, I noted that this book was mentioned in that book. So I decided to read this book for that challenge, and I thought it was very good. I was completely wrong in who I thought the killer was. This book totally threw me for a loop. I did not see this one coming. I didn't expect it. So that alone is nice in a mystery, to be completely surprised. And I thought that was fun. I did think it was a stretch how it all came about. I would have never put that series of events together, and I think in another review I read, somebody else kind of thought the same thing, that there's no way anybody could have come to that conclusion, even Hercule Poirot. So I don't know, but it was very entertaining, and I mean, that's what it's all about. It's just to be entertained by a fun whodunit story, and I definitely was. Now, I am really surprised that I got this book finished. I read this completely on March 31st, and the reason I had time to read it is because I had to stay home with my daughter. She had my oldest daughter Emily has epilepsy as well as autism, and on Wednesday evening we were walking up the sidewalk from our driveway to the house, and she had a seizure and face planted into the concrete. So because I was worried that maybe her nose was broken and there was a lot of blood and everything, we went to the emergency room, and we were there till midnight. So because her face was so banged up and swollen, I didn't send her to school the next day, and because I couldn't leave her home, and my other daughter is a car rider, the bus from her school doesn't come to our house, so I had to just, so both kids stayed home from school, and I stayed home. I couldn't sub, I couldn't work, and so I just read. Well, I wish it hadn't been for that reason. Poor Emily is just still, her face is all banged up and scabbed, but we're just thankful that nothing was broken and that she's okay. I had 2 audiobooks. This one was on Playaway. Here it is right here. This is Blue Shoes and Happiness by Alexander McCall Smith. This is book 7 in the #1 Ladies Detective Agency series. This one had a little bit more mystery in it than book 6 did. So I enjoyed it. And the interesting thing is that it came with a lanyard, which is kind of nice. Most Playaways don't come with lanyards, and I didn't even realize that Playaways come with this little hook that you can hook a lanyard to. So I'm guessing that whoever donated this book to the library must have just left the lanyard with it, because they usually don't come with lanyards. But it gave me an idea to get a lanyard to use for Playaways, because sometimes I want to listen to it and I don't have a pocket, so I can just put this around my neck, and I've got my Playaway right here, and it was really handy, so I like that a lot. But this book was cute. It just progressed the series, and I've really been enjoying it. If you don't know anything about this series, it's set in Botswana in Africa. It is about Precious Remotsway. She runs the #1 Ladies Detective Agency, and it's just very entertaining. She's very clever, and the cases that she is involved in are usually ones that she has to think about and reason out, and they're just very good. Now, the last audiobook that I listened to, I didn't quite finish. At 11 p.m. on March 31st, I was so sleepy I had to go to bed, and I still had about 2.5 discs out of 10 left to do. But I'm still counting it because I had another book that I had listened to at least a fourth or more of. I had DNF'd it, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So for all intents and purposes, I read 7 books. So this one is book 2 in the Child 44 trilogy. Child 44, I've talked about. This is about this is Russian historical fiction. It is about a detective, Leo Demitov. This one takes place in 1956, and Leo, in the first book, Leo was an MGB agent, and now he has been given the privilege of heading up his own homicide department, and so he is a detective in this book. The book, however, is more of a story about him. It's not really a mystery story. It does continue his storyline about his family and what he and the things that he has to go through. So there is quite a bit of action and intensity in this book, but it's not so much a mystery. I thought it was very good. There were a few parts that I had a difficult time following on audio, but again, that was true of this one as well. And I was able to get the main gist of the storyline, and I'm definitely going to go ahead and finish the trilogy and listen to the 3rd one. In fact, I've already got it checked out from the library to listen to in April. So if you like Russian historical fiction, I think this is definitely a book that you would enjoy. And but of course, start with the first one, Child 44. It is definitely a mystery. This one just kind of is a story about a detective. So in a historical Russian setting. Now, the book I DNF'd was Single and Single by John le Carre, and there was 2 reasons that I DNF'd this book. One, I really didn't understand it. There were several storylines going, and I had a hard time following it. I listened to the first tape in its entirety. Now, this is a book of 4 cassettes. I was listening in my car. And the second reason that I didn't finish it is that the second tape was broken. It was completely, you know, like the end of the tape had come loose from one spool, so there was no way to listen to the second tape. So I put the 3rd tape in just to see if I could pick up with any of the storylines, and I really couldn't. Because I didn't have anything else to listen to at the time, and I listened for a little while, but I really couldn't follow it. And I couldn't really follow it in the first tape either. So, and I know that had that been the only reason, had I been really into it, I could have gone to the library and gotten a copy of it and read the part that was on the broken tape. But I just wasn't feeling it. It really just didn't interest me that much. So I have given up on this one. Now, if you've read this book and you think it's really worth me pursuing, let me know, and I'll go get another copy of it and I will read it or listen to it. But otherwise, I'm just going to take this off my TBR and not worry about finishing it. A couple of other things. I have the Masterpieces of Mystery by Edgar Allan Poe. I'm sorry, Troy. I did read about the first 15 pages of The Murders in the Rue Morgue, and I do plan to go ahead. There's like 20 more pages left, and I do plan to go ahead and at least finish that one. But I don't know. Maybe I'm not intellectual enough for Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know. There was kind of an introduction to the mystery before they actually started into the mystery, and it was so wordy and literary that I just had a hard time with it. But I will go ahead and finish the story. I had originally thought I would go ahead and read all 3 of the Edgar Allan Poe stories that Troy had recommended for the March Mystery Madness Challenge, and I may revisit it someday. There's another story in this book that some friends at work were telling me about. It's called Telltale Heart, and apparently that's one of his more famous ones. So I may look at that one as well and see if that's one that I like. But I have not gotten very far in this. I was able to get an extra extension at the library because nobody else had requested it or anything. So I am going to revisit this in early April and see if I can read just a little bit more. I don't feel like I've given it a good shot yet. But the part I have read, I had a hard time with. A couple other books that I mentioned on my TBR, I did not get to the Happy Hollisters, but I'm going to put this down for now. I am planning to participate in middle grade May, so perhaps I will pick this up then. And then I had said I was going to read Joanne Fluke's Lake Eden cookbook, and I think I still will get to that this month. I'm still in the mood for mysteries, and it has a lot of little vignette stories mixed in among the recipes. So I did not, but I did not get to this yet in March, and I think I will go ahead and keep this on my TBR for now. I was talking earlier about Child 44 and The Secret Speech. I did actually watch the movie Child 44. This starred Tom Hardy and Gary Oldman, and I have to tell you, I was disappointed. Now, I wasn't necessarily disappointed in the movie itself. I was disappointed in the fact that this movie was not about this book, really. I mean, that it was really a stretch, at least not the parts I liked. Now, this book really wowed me, and there were some parts in this book that just blew me away. Those parts that I loved the most about this book were completely absent from this movie. So that was disappointing. But if you look at this movie just as its own entity, then it was fine. But the connection that the book makes between Leo and the killer is absent from this movie. It's not even there, not present at all. And that's the part that I really liked about this book. The setting was there, and the main characters of Leo and his wife were there, and there were murders. It was just different. So, I'm glad I watched it, but I was disappointed that it wasn't what I hoped it was going to be. So, if you have seen this movie and you've not read the book, you haven't been spoiled, really. But if you enjoyed the movie, you should definitely read the book, because I think you're going to love it 100% more. Oh, and something else we did this week, actually a few days before this week, we finally got Netflix. We have never had Netflix at our house, in our household, and my daughter talked me into it. I had kind of been wanting to do it for a while, and she was mainly wanting to get it so that she could watch Fuller House, which she's already watched every episode. And I had also been wanting to watch Once Upon a Time. So we have started watching Once Upon a Time. I have, during this past week, I watched about 4 episodes, and I think it's great. I really love it. I see what all the hype is about. I think my daughter is way ahead of me. She has watched, she's already into the 2nd season, but she's going back and watching with me as I, slowly make my way through them, and we're having a lot of fun. So that's neat, and I am looking forward to watching more of those during April and in the coming months. So I guess that's about it for what I read and what I watched in the last 6 days of March. And stay tuned, because I will be doing a little mini wrap-up of everything that happened for March Mystery Madness. And also, I have some book hauls. About midway through March, I filmed 4 book haul videos, and I have just had so many reading goals that I have not stopped and taken time to edit those videos. So I hope to do that very soon. So I guess that's all I have for this video. I hope you're having a great day. Read a good book, and God bless you.